I testified.
I testify.
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 My name is Antoinette Carter. I am an HR professional. My first recollection of my mother being incarcerated, I was 5 years old. At the time of her incarceration, I felt a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger. I was trying to understand what was going on, why this was happening. I had the why me factor. Why was it happening to me? Why was it my mother? And not because it didn't seem like it was happening to other mothers. As a 5-year-old, I learned to compartmentalize my feelings in dealing with my mother being incarcerated. I learned to put certain feelings in certain categories and compress. In compartmentalization, most of my anger was directed towards her. When my mother was arrested, I was in the custody of my grandmother and my mother's brothers, my uncles, and they raised me and took care of me during that period. If someone asked me where my mother was, I would tell them she was not there. And I remember being very matter-of-factly about it because it wasn't the kind of conversation that you would hold with people in the 70s, in the 80s. If a teacher pressed me, I'd have a conversation with the teacher. And I think because of my aptitude, those teachers would take special interest in me, and I might have extra assignments or things that would test my intellect, that would help me to compartmentalize a little more. I carried my mother's incarceration on my shoulders. It was a taboo subject because I recognized in my environment that the majority of my friends, the majority of my classmates weren't going through the same thing. And it was better, in my opinion, if I didn't disclose that information, because the one time I did disclose that information, it seemed like everybody was shocked. And it seemed like it cast this cloud over me. So I chose not to talk about it anymore when I was younger. Since my mother went to recovery and found a path to put her life back together, a lot has happened between us. We have bonded, we have fought, we have collaborated, we have found our way back to one another. To find that path, to find my way to that path or back to that path, I had to actually, I had to look at all of the factors that went into the road or the path that my mother took. I had to understand the outside factors. I had to understand the role that everyone in her path took for her to get to that place. You know, as a kid, you have, or as a child, you have these phases where you kind of think you know everything, and I don't think that you've experienced enough in life to really understand some of the things that your parents have gone through. And I think becoming an adult, experiencing more, helped me to understand some of the pitfalls, some of the traps that were laid for my mother, and some of the trap doors that she fell down in that process. And totally understanding that wasn't where she wanted to be, it just happened to be where she was. There's a difference. And I think probably having to recognize the biggest factor was the day that she asked me if she could come and live with me. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I thought my mother was either wanting to get to where she needed to be, or she was absolutely crazy asking me if she could come and live with me. And knowing the person that I was, I had to understand that she was absolutely serious. And if she was serious, I'd need to get serious too. I did switch roles and become my mother's provider versus her providing for me. But at the time, I was grown. I was already providing for myself and for my child, and I didn't need her to provide for me. I felt that I had created a safe space for myself and a safe space for my child, and those were the most important things. Understanding that she too needed a safe space, and the conviction in which she asked for that safe space made me feel I could continue to be a doubter, or I could do something about it. And so I don't think that I had ever been in a position where I felt that I could do something about it. That was the first time I felt the opportunity versus the obligation. I look at it as all my mother's work. I don't want to harp on, if I hadn't let my mother come and live with me, we wouldn't have a new way of life, because I don't think that I put in all of the work to get to a new way of life. I was a catalyst for a bridge that needed to be built.